met all kinds of friendly John Deere collectors here at the Florida Flywheelers Show, but one of those folks that we've actually met before is Tom Crawford from Cashiers, North Carolina. Tom, you're down here in Florida. You brought a few pieces of machinery with you, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got a few of my collection here, probably more than what I wanted to, but knowing it was a John Deere show, I wanted to make sure we had a good example of our collection.
Now, is it true that maybe your wife doesn't quite know how many you got down here? Is that what I understand?
That's why I told her to stay back on the park, because I always tell a lie. It's not as many as I really have.
You know, that's one of the ways you can tell you've got classic tractor fever is when your wife asks you how many tractors you got. You can't really look her in the eye.
No, and she sees them coming and going, but she doesn't count them as they come and go. But more of them are coming than they're going.
Well, tell us about this one right here, this John Deere 60. It's set up for the groves here in Florida, isn't it?
Correct. It was one of 45 made. That tractor came to Clermont, Florida, which is it was stationed about 4 miles from my home. And I had my eye on this tractor for probably the last 10 years. A friend of mine was using it actually as a pulling tractor, and he had tore all the sheet metal off of it and weighted it down. He was very competitive in the pulling track era, and I was after him every year, and I said, please, you got to make a new home for this tractor. So finally I got it in 2013 and got PJ Farm Aid to do the restoration. John Craig did the sheet metal. We started from ground up, and I'm pretty proud of the way it turned out.
Now, this is what year, and what do you think it would have been used for?
In 1956, it was solely set up for in the groves, whether it be citrus or apple, peaches, pecan, whatever. Propane, I guess in the late 50s, 60s, propane was probably a nickel a gallon. And so Deere designed some LP tractors to be more economical, where gas was probably 20 cents a gallon. So it was very efficient, clean. The farmer wanted to have he more than likely used LP on the farm anyway, so he had one truck service his complete operation, LP.
So when you took this one apart, was the engine maybe cleaner than some of the other tractors you have because of the LP?
Most definitely. It was in great shape. Of course, Mike had used it for pulling. Mr. Horn, we sent the carburetor to him, and he had all the orifices out of it. He let the LP just flow through it for power. But it was clean as a whistle. We did very little mechanical work other than wheel seals and that type of thing, but it always started right up, and it's got that little different pitter-patter sound of any other John Deere, not like a D or an R or any other of the two cylinders.
Now, I know lots of folks have looked at orchard or grove tractors over the years, but tell us just a little bit about how they're set up differently and what makes them ideal for working in an orange grove or whatever.
Well, again, you have to walk through a grove, I guess, to understand this, but there'd be spider webs and there'd be all kinds of debris, and the operations station is set down low. Some of the drivers would stand up at certain times, but most of the time he had to stay behind that cage so he wouldn't get whipped in the face with branches and debris. Some guys would put a little post out in the front of the radiator, and because spiders would be going across from tree to tree, and so that would knock down the spider webs before you went through it. Sand tires on this one, the ones coming from Arkansas or Texas, of course didn't have the Grove tires, but I kept these original for Florida use.
So a 1956 John Deere 60 Orchard model LP, one of 45. How many do you think are left today?
I don't know. I talked with Ford Baldwin about that. We've seen 3 together at one show. There's 3 at this show now, maybe 10 out of the 45. A lot of them, were scrapped. There's probably a few in the ground here in Florida.
Tell me just a little bit about, I guess, how this tractor stacks up with the rest of what's in the field here at the Florida Flywheelers, and how excited you are about how this show has come together.
It's a super show. I mean, it was 10 years since we had John Deere here before. Here we are in Florida. We're in citrus territory, and we're in tomato pepper farming. So the great thing about this show was we had a great exhibit of grove tractors, citrus tractors, and we have a tremendous amount of high crops. That's where our collectors, I think, are leaning toward today, is the more rarity tractors, being either orchard or high crop. And we must have 35 or 40 total. So it makes a unique show. People come and see the regular John Deeres, but these are pretty special.
And Tom, for you, why is it that you're so passionate about preserving this kind of history, John Deere tractors? What makes it a fever for you?
I think I've told you before, you know, every man ought to have the opportunity to find an old tractor, whether it be in the pasture row or at a salvage yard or in an auction, to take one and out of its work clothes and restore it and bring it back to its originality. It gives you the fever. You can't give it up.
Well, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having us and appreciate you coming.
Tom Crawford with his very rare orchard model tractor. Down here in Florida, they call him a Grove tractor, sharing the fever with friends from all across the country here at the Florida Flywheelers Show. Thanks for catching Classic Tractor Fever. If green is your scene, be sure to check out these other classic stories. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button to keep those classic tractor stories rolling.